All right, so let's talk Brandon Aiyuk. And I don't know if the Niners are going to sign Brandon Aiyuk or not.
Yeah.
Matt Mayoko today says it's entirely possible that the 49ers don't sign him to a long-term contract and let him play out the final year of his deal and see where it goes from there. So they're saying that Aiyuk wants Amon-Ra, St. Brown type of a deal. The Niners don't want to give him that.
Right.
Let's take a look at, first of all, there's three ways to look at this. There's the AAV, there's the total contract value, and then there's the guaranteed money. If we're going guaranteed money, Justin Jefferson, number one, 110 million guaranteed. AJ Brown, number two, 84 million guaranteed. Amon-Ra at 77 million guaranteed. Jalen Waddle at 76 million guaranteed. And Cooper Kupp at 75. Those are the top five wide receivers in guaranteed money.
Yeah.
If you want to say NFL's highest paid receivers total contract value, tied for number one would be Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams, both at 140 million.
And one of those is looking real good right now.
Amon-Ra's at 120. Tyreek Hill's at 120. Amari Cooper is at 100. Everybody else is less than $100 million total contract value. That's probably the least effective barometer, just because there's all kinds of ways to spin that.
I mean, most of these deals are like two years that are real or 3 years that are real.
Even the Amon-Ra St. Brown contract was like there was a trap door in that thing, and
it's only got 35 fully guaranteed, which is less than what Waddle got.
So then there's the AAV, and Justin Jefferson's number one now with $35 million AAV. He reset the market. AJ Brown signed for 32. That also reset the market. Right. Amon-Ra, got $30 million. And a lot of people feel like that's where Aiyuk wants to be. Then you got Tyreek Hill at $30 million.
Yeah.
And then you got Jalen Waddle sitting there at $28.26 million.
Contract.
And to me, that's kind of like, does Aiyuk belong in front of Jefferson, Brown, Amon-Ra, Tyreek Hill? I would say no, and no.
No.
But if you want to pick a guy that you think, okay, the Aiyuk contract should be in that neighborhood, right, I would pick Jalen Waddle. 28.2 AAV.
Yep.
Total contract is 84.7, and guaranteed money is 76. I think that's kind of the neighborhood for Aiyuk. And shame on the Niners if this thing doesn't get done until way after camp or right before the opener, because I think that those numbers are going to come in really damn close to what I just laid out there. He's going to get a Jalen Waddle type deal, I think. What do you guys think?
I mean, Hutch, you're more the contract guy, but the way I see it right now is that, like, okay, maybe not 30, right? But let's split the difference with the Amon-Ra St. Brown contract, where you go, okay, well, he's making $30 million a year. But as you noted, the guarantees
I got a list of this on my coffee table.
I'm staring at it right now.
Talk amongst yourself for 30 seconds.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, 34.6 million fully guaranteed. So like the real money. And this is what we're talking about. There's like a 2-year trap door in this contract. I think that
weird they can really get out of it if they want to.
I don't know why, but it's nice that they could. It should be noted that like Marvin Harrison Jr., just by being drafted as early as he was, has $35 million in total guarantees in his contract. He has more fully guaranteed money than Cooper Kupp and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown just signed. Devontae Smith just signed at 33 fully guaranteed. So Deebo Samuel had a $41 million fully guaranteed deal. Jerry Jeudy got 41. I mean, the fully guaranteed money is the number, if I'm Brandon Aiyuk, I give a damn about. And you're not getting Justin Jefferson's 88. That's absurd. But Tyreek Hill at 52, AJ Brown at 51, Calvin Ridley at 46. If I'm Brandon Aiyuk, I go full Kirk Cousins here, and I say, I don't need to be the highest paid guy in average per year, but any dollar you give me better be 100 cents.
Yeah,
it better all add up. I go for the big fully guaranteed deal. I take the term, but I make sure I get a ton of fully guaranteed money and take a little bit of a hit on the ABV. 29 million ABV, but get like above $50 million fully guaranteed.
Exactly what I was going to say. Where I think this ends up is 116 total value, which is 4 below, Tyreek and Amon-Ra, and that puts him at 29 a year. Basically, 5 years, 130 plus the option year. You can spread that out however you want.
Right.
So that's 29 million basically a year on the extension. Total guarantees, I bet it comes in honestly a little bit. Either it's 75, 80, something like
Oh,
that.
wow. Yeah.
I think that's going to be about where it should be, but fully guaranteed. Amon-Ra's at 35. I think Aiyuk is probably, and I think this is realistically what Ayuk's going to hold out for. Debo got 41 million fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
And that's Debo. And again, it's
I'm
a
on Roz at
shorter-term
fully
deal.
guaranteed. I'm on Roz at 77 fully guaranteed.
That's
but
in
that's
total
not
guarantees. There's a big difference there because
some of that
there's the
includes
trapdoors in the
injuries
contract. Yeah.
But fully
Oh, I got you.
guaranteed, he's only got 35, which is about the same as Waddle. Aiyuk, I think, would want at least the 41 million that Debo got fully guaranteed. I would think it would come in around 45, where it's like 2 full years fully locked in. You got a little bit more security. And also, Aiyuk is 26.
That's a
Like,
big
he's
deal.
not taking the same hits that Debo is. And I think part of the reason that this is tricky is not just that the market is exploding. It's that Aiyuk's going to be like, no, him and his agent want real money. They don't want it to be just bloated. Oh, let's give us 31. He's like, no, I want like 28 or 29, but like I want 3 years of that being real.
Not even just real. Fully guarantee him 3 years, because here's the other thing that they're looking down the pipeline at. If they want to play the contingency game, which is something we've suggested the Niners should seriously look into because of the fickleness of everything and because of the threat of Pearsall, and because, hey, you can play. Deebo Samuel doesn't have to go anywhere if you don't want him to. It's your choice to get rid of him or not at the end of this year. They could play out the 5th-year option and they could franchise tag him. Well, guess what? That money's guaranteed. That's $45 million guaranteed right there. So if I'm Brandon Aiyuk, I say, hey, you're willing to guarantee 2 years of contract. Let's bump it up to 3 and get this thing done. And if I look at the names on the fully guaranteed money, okay, Jefferson's in a league of his own, right, at 88. Tyreek Hill, 52. It's hard to make the argument that Brandon Aiyuk should be paid more than Tyreek Hill, even if Tyreek Hill is an older receiver on a later contract. But AJ Brown at 51, Calvin Ridley and DJ Moore at 46 and 41. Like, take the numbers out of it. Brandon Aiyuk should get more fully guaranteed money than Michael Pittman, Jerry Jeudy, DJ Moore, and Calvin Ridley. That's the cut and dry of it. That means that he's got to get more than $50 million in fully guaranteed money. And that's going to make the 49ers nervous because no one likes to put trapdoors in contracts and find weird ways to get out of stuff more than the San Francisco 49ers. And I was of the mindset that this thing would just get done in July because the timelines would converge and be like, okay, time for dilly-dallying is over. Let's get the contract done and get you into camp. I don't think this contract's getting done anytime soon because Justin Jefferson just blew the damn thing up. You got Jalen Waddle making way more money than anyone would have thought he would have gotten. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown with a trapdoor contract like crazy, but big numbers that get headlines. I think that if Brandon Aiyuk and his representatives have their head in the right spot, which is give me the guaranteed, the fully guaranteed money, that's the one thing that the 49ers will actually hold out on, and that can make this negotiation very contentious. But again, the Niners have the leverage here because they can always walk away, and Brandon Aiyuk can't.
What do you make? There's a lot of people that feel like Mayoko is fed stuff by the Niners.
I won't speak to that.
Well, I'm not saying I'm not asking
I know.
But I mean, when he comes out and says in the middle of the summer, basically, it's entirely possible that they don't sign him to a long-term contract and let him play out the final year of his deal and see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
Is that the smartest play? Because and from this perspective, you're going to have to pay Brock a ton. Mm-hmm. There's going to have to be some serious kind of cap,
the era of austerity
moving around to make and then if you win a Super Bowl, isn't it pretty highly likely that a guy like Trent Williams retires at that point? That dramatically affects your cap as well. So, maybe because the Niners are so involved in their Super Bowl window and because of the looming massive contract that they're going to be handing out to, to their quarterback, who's they're going to make him the highest paid guy on the team, obviously. Maybe it's in their best interest to, instead of finalizing anything with Aiyuk, you basically let Aiyuk and Debo just kind of play out the year and see how it goes, see who's productive, see who's healthy, see if you win or not, see if Pearsall becomes a star or if he's just a guy, see if Cowing becomes a star or if he's just a guy. You're going to have a lot more knowledge of life after any of these guys after you watch this season play out, right? I mean, maybe is it possible that that's what they're thinking,
Jake?
I think what they're thinking is they like to play hardball, and they just they drafted Pearsall, and they're like, well, if he can replace Aiyuk and Aiyuk doesn't, he wants a ton of guaranteed money, maybe we do leave the door open, and we just franchise tag him and figure it out in the offseason. I think realistically, their thesis is always to pay these guys top of market value. That's always been their thing, and they always are really proud of it. So I think it would be out of character if they didn't do it. One interesting stat / comp, since we're talking about Jefferson, we're talking about Aiyuk, same draft. Jefferson obviously had injuries, so, full comparison, not fair, but he had 100 targets. The thing with Aiyuk is that he doesn't have the targets. He doesn't have the same numbers as like CeeDee Lamb and those other guys because he's in this crowded offense.
Yeah.
Jefferson had 100 targets last year, went for 1,074 yards and 5 touchdowns. Aiyuk had 105 targets, went for 1,342 yards, almost 300 yards more, and had 7 touchdowns. So he had almost 300 yards more and 2 touchdowns more than Jefferson had last year on roughly the same amount of targets. So I know no one's going to be like, all right, you're not getting the Justin Jefferson deal. I think Aiyuk might be like, I mean, I don't want Justin Jefferson. Like, shouldn't you at least like seriously consider it? I don't know. I just think it's tough. It's tough because Aiyuk does deserve a lot, and because of the offense he plays in, he doesn't have as much bargaining power as he probably should based on what he actually does on the field. And he's a guy that's low maintenance. And he's like, I've never been a problem for you. Pay me what I'm worth. Yeah. So I don't know. This thing might really linger.
I would like to note that the Niners, it's very much in their best interest to remind everybody that they, again, have the ability to walk away, because the person who has leverage in a negotiation is the person who has the ability to walk away. On the flip side of that, cost certainty is very valuable to them as they think about how they're going to build their team, with Brock Purdy taking up 20 to 25% of their salary cap and having this Brandon Aiyuk thing lingering. You can come through with all these different game theories and all these different thoughts, but the fact of the matter is they very much believe, much like they believe with Brock Purdy, a million things could happen with him, but they're very much of the mindset, this is a guy we want to give the money to. They are of that mindset with Brandon Aiyuk. And so getting the cost certainty for the next 5 years is very valuable to the 49ers. How valuable? I guess we're about to find out. They got to balance both of those things out. But again, the Niners have the ability, and the CBA, the way the NFL rules are structured, give the 49ers an incredible amount of leniency in this negotiation. Brandon Aiyuk would be wise to recognize it, and also would be wise to do as Jake said and try to get as much money out of this as possible, because this is his big contract. It, as of right now, doesn't feel contentious. I don't think it will ever get contentious, but that doesn't mean it's going to get done. This thing can get bogged down in the minutia and the details that drag on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And during that period of time, Brandon Aiyuk, as rich as he has gotten off of other people having success, this time in the free agent market, everyone else just gets paid and paid and paid, and his value goes up and up and up because, this is a market economy.
But
at the same time, training camp.
But there is a potential bone of contention that we're not really talking about, and that is that last year Nick Bosa held out throughout the mandatory, throughout training camp, and they wiped away the fines.
They will always wipe away the fine.
He accrued fines
on rookies.
Rookies,
so it's the CBA on rookies. You can wipe away the fines on players that were already under a second contract. Those fines are irrevocable, which is why you don't see holdouts for guys who have already
Yeah.
signed their second contract in the league. So
Ayuk
there's
is
a
still
song and dance
technically
here.
on his first contract, so he
That's
could
right.
they could wipe away the fines. But it's funny that Shanahan was asked about Ayuk and
Not at
whether or not.
minicamp though. Not at minicamp. He has to pay that fine.
Okay, but he was asked, well, some guys actually, don't want to pay the fines, and other guys do pay the fines. So the Niners will be fining Ayuk
For not showing up to minicamp, yes.
The fines, yeah,
like
and the fines
$40,000
are
now.
mandatory for training camp. Like they just do get fined. Teams have to fine them
Yeah.
for days. That's in the CBA, but they can forgive that.
They can forgive
What's
training
interesting
camp
though,
days.
yeah, is because Ayuk's a first round pick like Bosa. He already has the 4 accrued years. Like guys who are, this is just something worth mentioning. Guys who are round 2 through 7 are undrafted. You lose if you try and hold out, you lose an accrued year, and then you can't hit free agency. So they can't do it. These are the only guys, first round picks on their 5th year option are really the only ones in the CBA who can hold out at this point. And that's what happened with Bosa. And that might be what happens with Aiyuk, but that's like the thin, narrow, actual potential holdout you can face. And again, the 49ers could not forgive the fines, but that's an idiotic thing to do.
He'll be rich enough to pay him at that point if he gets to a point where he signs a contract. But again, as much money as he has made just in this offseason because everyone else is making money, the same tactic could work against him because if he's not out there, Ricky Pearsall is the X. And if Ricky Pearsall keeps kicking ass and taking names, doesn't mean that he's better than Brandon Aiyuk, doesn't mean that the 49ers can replace him and win the Super Bowl this year, doesn't mean any of that. But it does mean that Brandon Aiyuk feels less valuable to the San Francisco 49ers, and that would increase the chances that the Niners walk away from the table. So Brandon Aiyuk has to walk the fine line too. 49ers have to worry about cost certainty versus signing a contract that's not very, fair to them. Brandon Aiyuk has to go, okay, cost certainty, big money, as much as I can get, versus I have a role on this team. I'm a leader on this team, even though I'm a soft-spoken guy. And my value is manifested in my presence. And if I'm not here, Brock Purdy's out here getting chemistry with somebody else.
And
Makes
Nick
you
Bosa
wonder.